discuss the capabilities in batch at a glance in terms of navigation. The best is to go directly to the application, and we'll discuss the features that are organized here in the View menu. I will group these features as individual discussions. But right now, let me pick off a couple of features. First, the status bar. The status bar is turned on by default, and as I see down here on the bottom, I find that quite useful because it reminds me of the sample that I'm on and the compound I'm currently focused on, as well as the samples in the batch. Also, it will tell me the coordinates as I'm looking through, let's say, the calibration table, and I find that useful. You can turn that off if you desire. Next, the lock samples. So let me show you how that works. If I'm sitting here and looking at the sample information that's blocked out, if I scroll to see columns that are off to the right here, you'll notice that the sample information stays where it is. It's locked. Now, if I were to turn that sample information locking off, then when I scroll, the whole grid scrolls. Again, I prefer the default, which is keeping the locked samples in their place, so I always know what sample I'm working on. Next, I'd like to discuss sample navigation. As you can see in the grid, the samples are organized here vertically, and if I want to move from one sample to the next, I can use this icon, which will move me to the next sample, or I can control it by moving the grid to any arbitrary sample. Also, I have the ability here to filter samples by their sample type. For example, look here, I've got a certain set of calibration and QC samples, and then the regular samples in a blank. So if I just wanted to see my calibration samples, I'll pick my calibration samples, and that filter only shows me the calibration samples. Next, I've got the compound navigation. I'm currently on amphetamine, but I can move to the next compound either arbitrarily through picking from the list or moving to the next compound, which will move me to cocaine and so forth and so on. My ISTD compound that's related to my target compound is shown here next to the ISTD. Also, in terms of navigation, is an exciting feature of time segment. Now, in this particular sample, there's only one time segment. But if I've done an analysis that is organized by different time segments, I can pick the time segment and it will show me all the compounds that are expected in that time segment in one navigation. That can be quite useful. Next, I'd like to show you the ability to see one compound in detail or many compounds at the same time. What I'll do first is set the sampling filter back to all so I can see all my samples in the batch. And then I will also remove this column so that I can have a little bit more room. Now, what I'm seeing with the default columns is the detailed view of MDMA, ecstasy. And as I go across here, I've got the sample information, the sample type, the level. I've got the piece of the method information, the expected concentration. Then I have the MDMA results, showing me the response, signal to noise, final concentration and accuracy. I've got the qualifier information, ratio, signal to noise. I've got the information for the MDMA ISTD, the deuterated compound, in terms of its retention time response. And in this particular case, the ISTD also has a qualifier associated with it, and I see that information here, whether it's manually integrated, let's say. So that's the detailed information that shows with the default columns. I can also, by choosing the multiple column display, see all of the columns in one shot, batch at a glance. I'm going to again remove the acquisition date time, and here I've got MDMA, amphetamine, cocaine, and methamphetamine in a summary version all at one time. The basic concept of batch at a glance. All of the samples and all of the compounds showing on one screen at one time so that I can analyze this and get a global view of what's going on with this batch. Last, I'd like to show you the ability to sort exactly the same as in Excel. So if I have a column here that I want to sort on, for example, accuracy, I can click on accuracy and it will sort the numbers for me. So I have the highest accuracy for this particular compound, MDMA, at the top. Another useful feature is that I can double click on the line that sits right next to that column and it will resize for me. That's quite useful. Another feature that I'll show you in terms of column management is that if I wanted the accuracy for some reason to be at a different place in the row, I can pull that and move that and it will show up in a different position in terms of the order here. So that gives you an overview of navigation within the batch table here, showing you the ability to navigate by sample, filter, navigate by compounds, seeing all the compounds at one time or one compound in detail. Navigate by compound, it notes the ISTD and also by time segment. Thank you for your